Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Chasing Labels. It's me, Stephen Billings. Of course, Andrew Cabral here with me. And this time, we are doing another interview. And this time, we have brought on another filmmaker. This time, going deep into the indie. And we had Sean Baker on. I know he's considered indie. This is even lower than that. Okay, guys. This is micro budget filmmaking. I think I read $2,500 budget on this film.
Actually, cheaper than that. Yeah.
Yeah. See, guys, you could just go into my bank account right now and we could make a movie right now. That's about how much it is. So we got here today. We got Mr. J.R. Stokes, who is here to talk about his new film that just released, Beautiful Pam. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, doing wonderful. I know Mr. Andrew over here, he's probably not going to be as lively as usual. He has been dealing with some sickness, so I'm going to say that on his behalf.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's been a week. Well, if you're listening to this in the future, hopefully I'm much better now. But I don't know. It's one of those seasonal things that just end up coming and hitting you out of nowhere. But I'm up for cinema, if you will. There's one thing that can get you out of the doldrums of sickness in life. It's cinema. Yeah. So that's what we're here to talk about.
I totally agree with that.
Yes, he knows. So before we get into Beautiful Pam, which we'll say right off the bat, really great job, man. I love it. I mean, I know this isn't. I think I've seen a couple places say this is technically your debut, but I don't know. I mean, you did another. It's your second film, yeah. Because I know you had another film on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Was it Edge?
Is that
the name of?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So I want to check that out as well, but I wanted to focus on Beautiful Pam. So I'm going to go back and check out the debut. But Beautiful Pam, it just released here. Was it March 22nd? Am I right?
Yes. Yep. Yes. On YouTube for free.
Yeah, so you on YouTube, you've been doing screenings, you've been doing festivals. It just won Best Picture at the Winter Film Fest.
Yeah,
yes,
and the Winter Film Fest, we took home the top prize. Yeah,
that's fantastic, man, cool. Dude. That's got to feel good, man. All the work, all the crew, the people involved.
It felt nice. It's a great festival. I mean, talking about festivals, I mean, I don't want to get too deep. I know we're still doing introductions, but
sure.
I think that as far as independent film goes, right, the best way that someone like me, a micro budget filmmaker, is able to get my film distributed is by doing these sort of grassroots screenings, right, pop-up screenings, festival screenings, really trying to dig deep into the independent film festival market across the globe, across America. So
yeah, it's definitely, and I'm glad that's. Like you're obviously launching it on YouTube, but you are taking the time to show it theatrically, which is very important to our future of cinema, even on the independent level, which is where it's, I think, the most, passionate. We have all these big screens everywhere that are kind of slowly dying out in a way, and people ain't going to them as much because they're only screening these big budget blockbuster things that you can now just watch at home after a month. But the indie realm, you get a lot of passionate people going to see movies, and you pack the house out, and it's great. And we just need to keep that alive. But before we get into Beautiful Pam, we do want to talk a little bit about your history as a filmmaker. How, if you don't mind, how old are you?
I'm 20 right now.
20. Oh my God.
I made the movie when I was 19.
He's a baby, man. I'm no disrespect. I'm turning 37 next week. So,
God bless.
And Mr. Andrew Cabral here is what, 38, 39? Yes. Yeah. So, I love it, man. It's something that I think for me and Andrew has both been, things we thought about in our earlier years, and I'm still thinking about it. I want to make a movie. But you got to have a certain mentality, a certain mindset. And sometimes you got to be lucky, and you got to know people, and but you got to be motivated.
That's true. You got to be lucky.
Yeah, but you got to be motivated. And I think for being a 19-year-old, writing your own films, and getting people together and being motivated, it takes a lot of focus and and that's something that is important for, I think, just people in general to be more focused. And I think that's fantastic, man.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I mean, I've been making films of all kinds, since I'm a kid, since I'm younger than 9 years old. I've been telling people. I mean, I started out with my parents' video recorders and my Nintendo DS and everything. And You know, I'd use my action figures as my actors, as my characters, you know. And I mean, it's just always been something that has been inherent, right? I mean, I listen, I've tried and I've failed at a lot of different things, right? I've fallen flat on my face at a lot of different things. Filmmaking has always been something in the background of my life that I've always come back to and always wanted to do, you know. I mean, and for a long time as well, I was also making these things called machinimas, which is like this sort of niche animated form of filmmaking. Sort of jumped from that towards live action filmmaking. You know, that was like my film school, like my 14-year-old, 15-year-old film school. So it's been interesting, man. It's been a hell of a journey.
Yeah, I think I similarly have that thing where it's like I think it just to the core of it is like storytelling, just storytelling in general, like whatever form it is. I think just like kind of always stuck with me, and I think that sticks with a lot of filmmakers. That it's about wanting to tell stories, and you know, big stories, small stories, and you know, not only taking from our life, but taking from other people's stories, going out and seeing the world, and trying to give the audience something more, seeing something they've never seen before. And for you, you know, as a 19-year-old, you know, where are we getting inspiration from? What is, you know, I don't know. So you live in New York, right? You live in
Yes, I live in New York. Yes.
Okay, so you see a lot of things in a big city, a lot of different backgrounds.
I live in the boring part of New York. I live in Long Island.
Never mind. No.
I live in just outside New York City. I'm like 45 minutes away.
Okay.
But I mean, like you said, storytelling is something that is always a part of all of us, right? And we explore that through different forms. And I think as far as the stories I want to tell, I always want to try and be a storyteller that can resonate with people, right? Or at least I want to tell stories that resonate with myself. I never want to be inauthentic with my characters and with my stories. And in saying that, there are going to be certain aspects of these characters and these stories that I may not be able to relate to, or this person may not be able to relate to, but there are also core attributes of those characters that I can relate to, and that other people relate to, you know. And that's the beauty behind storytelling, man, is we can all take our own interpretation from that.
Exactly. And I think that's you know, that's an interesting point. It's something we'll definitely get more into when we talk about Beautiful Pam, because in Beautiful Pam we are following a queer sex worker, and that's not you, you know, and that's that you don't have that lived experience. And you know, there's been times I've seen in the film industry that people kind of get upset about people that are not of that background telling a story about somebody of a different background, like whether it's a white person telling an African-American experience or things like that. And I think that's definitely an interesting discussion that I think is worth having, you know, but I don't also think that it should keep anybody from trying to tell them stories. Anybody. I mean,
it really all depends on how one handles it. And in terms of its, attention to certain detail, or even how you go about telling a certain type of story, because, you know, in Beautiful Pam, there is a sense of universal themes that are incorporated within that unique character with that unique set of background and characteristics and things like that. So it's kind of more so how you handle those types of things using within that prism.
And similarly, actors playing queer people that are not actually queer, you know, like that's been a debate too. And I think that's something that's interesting, but I don't know that I agree. I think, well, first of all, acting is acting. It's either way, you go either way. Queer people playing straight people, it's acting. It's part of the art form. But yeah, Andrew, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just saying, like I said, universal aspects of the story, and it's interesting. You know, you mentioned how young you were and how, you know, mature the film is for someone like kind of Steven, you're saying, like, not having a lot of life experience perhaps within that world. Fascinating work. Now, I noticed that your first movie was a bit like double in length than your second movie.
There's a lot of ambition on that first one.
Did you just learn that, hey, perhaps, you know, like 2-hour feature film is tougher to make than an hour-long feature film?
Like Steven said, there was a little bit too much ambition right there, you know. I mean,
also film festivals love shorter movies.
Yes, they
Entry,
believe me, I know that. I know. As far as length goes, right? I think I love digesting movies that are long. I love
Sure.
digesting 2-hour movies, two and a
I
half
agree
hour
with you.
movies, 3-hour movies. Now, as far as right, learning how to make a film, right? I didn't go to film school. This is my film school, is making films.
Exactly.
I probably, making that movie, there was probably some things I could have got. There was probably there's a lesson, that's a lesson I had to learn, right? And I applied that towards Beautiful Pam. Now, Beautiful Pam, even with, this 6-month long post-production process, there wasn't a whole lot of like cutting we did as far as like cutting certain scenes, right? I mean, most of what is in the film was on the page, right? So that made it onto the film. But as far as EdgeX goes, my first feature film, I that was a lesson. That was a lesson I had to learn. And as far as editing Beautiful Pam, this is something I've taken directly from Sean Baker. Is I don't look at the script when I edit. I want to edit like a documentary. All right, and I'm taking breaks from when I'm shooting versus when I actually get into post production. And I think that's the best way to keep me grounded and to make it sort of feel natural in a way. And that's not something I did with my first feature. That's something I applied to my second feature. So it really going from a 2-hour movie to a 1-hour movie was just based off of, number one, what the story calls for, and also experience, right? Just continuing to try and improve.
Because in like top line filmmaking, everything's thought out. You're thinking out shots, and you're thinking out, and really the idea is to make the movie on the quickest you can. Like they don't want things to take months to shoot. Unless it's an Avengers movie where they're like, okay, well, we got this whole big cast and we got to juggle this big cast and they got to come in and out and you got to do reshoots. But when you're talking about an independent film like this, your budget's small, so you have to get things done like this.
Yes.
So
absolutely. I mean, as far as shooting goes, we shot for 23 days, I believe. And every day, and we also rehearsed for 2 weeks beforehand in my garage.
Yeah, a lot of
But as far as shooting goes, listen, I think the worst thing possible to do on an independent film set when no one's making any money really is to have people there for 10 hours, 5 hours, right?
Exactly.
I can't convince people to come make this movie with me if that's the case. So what we did was, listen, these people are working every day, regular jobs, and coming home from that to do this. So my philosophy was, okay, let's get in the door at 7 p.m. and let's be out by like 10:30.
Yeah.
And that was the plan every time. Makeup took about 45 minutes to an hour. We shot for about 2 hours, and that was that. But like you said, it's all about timing. It's all about trying to make things work and trying to make things smooth, right? Smooth sailing for people.
You want to make it. You want to make the people involved that are making this project feel comfortable. And of course, for you, you're taking on a lot of the jobs, and that's. I mean, I think it's important, and we talked about this with Sean Baker, and he knows this. The more you can know about what to do on a film set, whether down the road you get to a point where you don't have to do everything, it's good to know it anyway. It's good to be the editor. It's good to be, it's good to know the sound. It's good to know all that stuff so that you can communicate well with your crew.
Yeah. Chris Nolan also says something very similar, right? I mean, I want to be able to learn and to know how to do every person's job. So like you said, I feel it's appropriate for me to be able to give that person direction. And to give that person, hey, maybe do this or do that. And while I was wearing a lot of hats, the few people we did have helping, they were fantastic. I mean, our sound guy, Brandon, our unit production manager, he was just a guy. It's my childhood best friend. He's been making films with me since I'm 9 years old. So that's
you can trust him. You can trust him.
It's trust, man. It's trust. The two people we had, I trusted with my life.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm curious about how the casting process went, specifically for a micro budgeted, small budgeted film. Did you do like a casting call? Did people come to you? Did you put out an ad? How does that work in the modern world of micro budgets?
That's a great question. So the town I live in, Lindenhurst, New York, on Long Island, a lot of people consider that the Broadway of Long Island because there's a bunch of theaters here. So I've kind of I know quite a few people that come through the theater scene in Long Island and Lindenhurst, and I've befriended a lot of these actors, and some of my closest friends are actors, and some of them that you see in the film, and it's mostly a word of mouth sort of thing as far as the process we went through for Pam, right? So I mean, we had actors audition, and you know, this person, Tom, knew this person, and Peter Konsevitch knew this person, you know, and we had them audition, right? And you know, of course, we put out like social media ads and Facebook groups and Instagram pages and stuff. I tried to reach out to as many different ways of working with different people as possible. One of the actors in the film, there's a person in the car that confronts Pam later in the film. That person like hasn't acted in years. He was like, "Hey man, I haven't acted in years, but I'd love to audition." You know, he met me from a Facebook group. I was like, "Yeah, man, send me a tape," and you know, we cast him. So as far as reaching out and casting goes, it was multiple mixed use of getting the film out there, you know, and talking with people, you know, trying to also convince people that, hey, we want people that will take ownership of the film and take ownership of their respective characters. That's a big thing I wanted to find in casting. So
Fantastic. Yeah.
yeah.
And what I was going to say earlier was that, you know, like the prep work that you're talking about to be ready it's just like, cause I used to work in a recording studio. And so when bands would come in, especially when they wanted to record live,
Yeah.
it was like, you got to practice. Like you got to get in there,
Yeah.
know your shit so that you're not wasting time and you're like not having to pay for more time in the studio. So it's, you know, cause money, you know, obviously we talked about it, your budget it's probably like $2,000, whatever, you know, like,
Yeah.
so you got to feed people. You got to,
Yeah.
you take their time away from their families. Like it
Yeah.
all matters. So
I totally agree with that. You know, every second counts on the set. Every
yeah.
second counts. Every minute counts, you know, and Peter and Tom, they did such an amazing job as the two leads of the film, right? Pam and Beetle. They did an amazing job trying to also help balance these things with me. You know, our producer, Sara, Stabile, also an amazing job trying to balance these things with me. Again, everyone took a piece of ownership in the film. Everyone wanted to do this. Everyone wanted to be a part of this. And that was the most special thing I could ask for as a filmmaker, you know.
I was going to say just getting people that are passionate about what
Yeah.
they're doing and not just there because, or, oh, it's cool. It's a movie, you know, let's
Yeah,
hang out,
exactly.
you know, you want people to be there because they believe in what you're doing, you know? So,
Yeah.
and so to that, like the
Yeah.
writing process, like what took you down the path to want to tell the story?
I think I'm someone that has gone through different periods of my life in isolation and loneliness, right? And that's something I see a lot throughout the film, right? Through Pam's lens, through Pam's perspective, you know. And I'm pulling bits and pieces of myself, and I'm interjecting that into Pam and into the story, you know. And I can even say that I can speak for Tom and saying the same thing. You know, Tom is pulling from himself and injecting that into Pam. You know, I think we're all sort of doing that, working on the film. I think Pam, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It felt natural, felt inherent to want to tell this story. It popped into me, and it's been floating around in me and in my head for a couple of years now. And writing probably took about 3 to 4 months. You know, I like to really, really think hard on what I want to write about and what I want to lay down in my head for about 6 months. And then for Pam, I took around 3 months to actually get it on paper, you know. And as far as actually, you know, the dialogue in the film and the writing, we had a lot of, you know, rehearsing. As I mentioned earlier, we had 2 weeks of rehearsing. So we were all trying to find this thing together, you know. And the Jack Nicholson says something very similar. It's like you have to be a great actor. Sometimes you got to be a great writer. And Tom, who plays Pam in the film, he's a great writer as well. And he would come to me and he would say, "Hey man, I think maybe I can rearrange it this way, or say it this way, or add this in here," you know, and that helped, and that made it feel natural, you know. And that's the biggest thing I also had to learn as a filmmaker is that part of collaboration, right? And if I'm preaching ownership to this cast, then I need to give them that room to do that, to improvise and to figure these things out.
Yeah, it's I think that can be some of the toughest things is learning how to let some of your stuff go. You know, you got to you got to remember that it's a collaboration and not you know, like them here for to some people might look at the director and you know, it is this way for some directors that we're there for his vision and that's it. There is no talking about it. Some directors have been looked at as being them type of directors, but I think
there are some people who do not like to collaborate. You know, some filmmakers who do not like to collaborate, some actors don't like to collaborate, and that creates like tension and creates,
creates the stories we hear about things.
Yeah, not only that,
Yeah.
well, and then sometimes you hear like with the collaborations, actually sometimes the best changes are the best parts of the movie. That can happen out of that as well.
For sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, kind of, this sense of collaboration on the movie, because it felt so organic on screen too. Like, it felt incredibly genuine. The performances and just the characters felt incredibly lived in. Like, they felt incredibly like this was a snapshot of someone's life at a specific moment. And I don't know if that was intentional.
Thank you so much for saying that, Andrew. It means a lot to hear you say that, because it was intentional. That was what we wanted. That was absolutely something that we wanted to go for. I mean, that was probably, as far as priorities go, that was at the top of the priority list. Was how can we make this feel like a lived-in experience and make it feel natural? And again, it's about finding it together. And listen, there were times when I would disagree with something or this person would disagree. It's about finding it, man. Martin Scorsese, he does something amazing with a lot of his films, and Martin Scorsese has influenced every filmmaker ever at this point, right? In this generation, at least. His scripts are vehicles, right? He is not so, I personally don't think that he's so hell-bent on very specific words or very specific ways of saying things. I think he uses his scripts as vehicles, right? And even De Niro and Nicholson and DiCaprio and Matt Damon, talking about his experience on The Departed, they've all said that he uses his script as a vehicle to get from point A to point B, right? And to make it feel natural and entertaining, and et cetera, et cetera. And like Andrew was saying before, trying to make this feel like a lived-in experience, that was a huge thing we had to keep ironing out during the rehearsal process was, okay, you want to say this, but I want you to say that. And, so, and it was just a push and a pull. And I had to learn when to push and I had to learn when to pull, man.
Yeah. And sometimes, as the writer, you feel like maybe some of the words, are expressing something beyond the scene that you're in, or you're like, like there's always like a reason. You're like, well, he says this because later, like it's gonna come back, and then so like there's always a reason, but sometimes you're like, well, fuck it, maybe it'll just show through later. Sometimes there is no need to tell.
I completely agree with that. I mean, there are some parts in the film, where Lauren is speaking, right? Played by Beck Fordyce, the ex-wife in the film, where she's speaking, and some of her dialogue is me writing through her, about this or that. And even Pam, some of their dialogue, what they're saying to other people about themselves or about other people, that's me writing through the character, So I would hope that also helps with the idea that this feels natural.
Yeah. And we haven't we kind of like flowed into this conversation to talk about Beautiful Pam, but please tell people kind of like a brief synopsis of what the film is.
Beautiful Pam follows a queer sex worker named Pam going through a midlife crisis during the week leading up to their son's 18th birthday. And heavily inspired by the works of Darren Aronofsky and Sean Baker. I mean, if you like The Wrestler or The Florida Project, you might like this movie, It's also a movie that I feel touches greatly on universal aspects of family and identity and loneliness and isolation. And in what we were talking about earlier, right? I am not Pam, and you don't have to be able to be Pam to be able to relate to the character. And there are people who have come up to me and said, hey, I relate to this aspect of Pam, or I kind of feel like similar to Pam, and that's okay too. It's a movie that we always wanted to try and feel universal, and that we always would hope that it could resonate with people. And it's truly special. It means a lot that it is resonating with people.
Yeah, and I think if people are not understanding when how he's describing that it's a universal story, even though he's not, doesn't really understand Pam's care, like he's not queer, he's not. The thing is I think what you're trying to do with the movie like this is that trying to normalize it. The fact that like we see tons of movies about people that are straight people, that are people, and that's their story. But it should feel the same way if it's a queer person or a trans person. They're going through the similar thing. It doesn't matter. They're still a person.
I think that's a wonderful point, Stephen. Listen, being a person is hard for a lot of people in their own ways, right? Figuring out how to be a person is also hard. You know, I mean, I said something similar in a recent interview, but some of us are thrusted into the world, and we don't have the time to figure things out. You know, I mean, it's everyone has their own story to tell, and like you said, part of it is wanting to normalize and analyze and to talk and to have that conversation about maybe the people or topics we don't talk about enough. You know, and also I never want to toe the line regarding how people interpret the characters or stories we see on screen, right? Because people are flawed and people make mistakes and people say things that they don't mean sometimes or that they do mean sometimes, right? People are very complicated, and that's also a huge aspect of what I personally want to touch on as a filmmaker, as a storyteller.
And I think I was going to say, when we get a little bit deeper into like spoiler territory for this discussion, there's some very, I think that's one thing I really appreciate about your film is that, you know, a character like Pam isn't just shown as just being kind of a misunderstood person, but also somebody that's made some mistakes and is owning to the mistakes. And by the end of the story is kind of deciding to own it and kind of, you know, move past it, you know, like in a way, like, and I appreciate that we're not like trying to make everybody one person or two, you know, seem like better than the other. I think it's just everybody's complicated, like you said. And I think everybody's got something going on in the story that, they all have something they all have to work on. And I think that you did a great job of not singling out one person and just making everybody very complex. I think you did a great job at that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Means a lot.
So Andrew, how about any like initial thoughts for you about how you felt about the film before we get into spoilers?
Regardless, you know, not talking spoilers, not talking, you know, plot heavy stuff. No, I was very surprised. Like I said, you know, the movie's an hour long, so it's very concise and very, you know, every scene has meaning. Every scene is perfect. You know, is it has purpose, has meaning to it. Every scene is important to either character stuff or plot things that are going on in the movie or stuff like that. But there's a lot of also ambiguity within the movie too. Like we were just talking about this kind of sense of universal themes and universal character stuff and ambiguity in the sense like the movie's doing a lot within the Pam character, but not providing like any type of universal answers to the universal truths that it's exploring, which I thought was very, very fascinating because the movie is kind of depicting regular people going through, you know, regular people things like, you know, identity crisis and midlife crisis and existential crisis and all these kinds of things. The movie doesn't really provide answers to those things, which I guess we don't have any really answers in our own lives for the most part. I guess unless you got everything figured out in life, which I don't know many people
got it all
do.
figured out, Andrew.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. I mean, the way I look at it, right? To add on to what you're saying, Andrew, I never want to answer for anybody. I want to observe people. I want to observe the characters that we see in the film and their stories. So that's the way I've always viewed the film, is this is an observation. And going back to what Stephen was saying earlier, why I feel I guess allowed to tell this story, right? Or stories that revolve around different types of people. I want to observe people. I want to understand people. I want to understand like what makes people, you know, and maybe that's something I'll never figure out. I don't think anyone has those answers, but it's something I'm going to continue trying to explore and continue trying to explore in a respectful and interesting way, I would hope. But I also think a lot of what we've talked about, all three of us in the past couple minutes, has a lot to do with the casting, right? Like Tom and Peter and Beck and all of this great cast. I think all of them, again, they took ownership of their characters and they genuinely had their own little backstories, you know, and this was something we all had conversations about, and they all were able to relate to their characters in their own ways, and they're able to apply that to what we see in the film. So I also think that helps with the observations that the audience is making.
Yeah, I think as long as you're respectful to the characters, that I don't think anybody should have any problem with anybody telling any kind of story. And I think you for sure, you told a complicated story, but you were still respectful, because I think, because let's get into it, because I think,
Yeah, as well, since we've been
yeah,
beating around it so much.
yeah, beating around the bush, which was an old AC/DC song, I think. So Pam, I think the one thing that you can look at Pam's journey in this film as being very complicated is the fact that, on one hand, she is, doing the thing that she wants to do. She decided to leave, but decided to leave his family.
Yeah.
And that's the complicated thing about it. The whole movie is to go and do the thing he wants to do. He leaves his family, leaves his 18-year-old son behind, who is in an impressionable stage of his life. And that's where the crisis comes into play in this little snapshot we're talking about.
Sure.
And I think that's what's kind of complicated about it is like, on one hand, you care that this person's trying to follow through with what feels right for them. But on the other hand, they are neglecting responsibilities that they chose. So tell us about what was the choice behind deciding to take this character and put him in such a complicated scenario.
Yeah. Well, the way I've always viewed Pam, right, in the situation that we see them in the film, I personally don't look at the label of like a midlife crisis. I don't think, for me, I don't associate that with Pam's identity crisis. Like you said, Pam, it's great to see Pam figuring himself out as far as identity goes. But everything around that is the crisis. Everything surrounding that. Again, hanging out in Taco Bells and smoking crack in motel rooms. That's a crisis. That is to me what is a major issue in Pam's life. And again, like you said, this is a snapshot. This is a week, a glimpse, a 63-minute glimpse into a week of Pam's life. And this has been building up for years, what we see in the film. And I think that as far as what we hope for, or what I would hope for the character of Pam, is that I think we all wanted Pam to be happy, right? I think we all hoped that Pam got what they wanted. But also, again, people are complicated, and Pam, to me, is not complicated because of who they want to be. I think they're complicated because of some of the choices they've made surrounding that, as far as their family and addiction and environment. I mean, even keeping someone around like Beetle, right, played by Peter Konsevitch.
Man, that's the biggest. And Andrew talked about ambiguity in the film. In the film, as much as I thought that the Beetle character, you get the rug pulled out of you at the end of this movie, and yeah, it's hinted at for sure. But it's Beetle is such a kind of like loudmouth, kind of likable character in a way. And then you get to the end of the movie and you're like, should I like this guy?
I don't. The word likable very loosely.
The thing is, he's obviously like,
he's charismatic.
He's very charismatic, and
that's true.
And some of the scenes, it's hilarious. Like when he like attacks the kid, goes to see him, and he's just like, we're supposed to be friends, man. Like, like, and he's just like messing with him. But you can tell there's an you can tell he's uncomfortable. The kid's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Even just like the intro in the bar with that character is what's interesting about these and I have to commend you just because, like I said, the movie being an hour long snapshot of somebody's life, you got to give us information as viewers, because we got to know who these characters are, what they're all about. And right away from the very beginning, the first couple of scenes, there's so many things that are established right away with the Pam character, with the Beetle character, with the world in which they live in, with all these other ancillary characters as well. There's so much information that's given to us early on. So I feel like we start the movie on a really strong, solid ground of just context of what's going on. I believe the movie starts off with Pam at the meeting, the sex addiction meeting.
Well, there's he's in a therapy. The first shot is him in therapy.
Therapy, and then it's the meeting, and it's the group session. But even then, we have therapy, group session. So we're already establishing that this character is going through something. in life. You know what I mean? We're already establishing that right there. So this person clearly has a past of something that has led them to this point.
The first line of the movie is her saying, I kind of want to die, like I don't really, and
Nope.
feeling
Yeah.
mixed about that. Yeah, I appreciate it, Andrew. I think that's a great way to look at it. I mean, character introduction is hard, right? Because you want people to be entertained, you want people to be interested, people, they talk about films and they talk about artists and stuff and yada yada yada. Being a filmmaker, I want people to respect the integrity of the work and the stories, right? But I also want them to be entertained and interested. I don't want people to come and be bored and turn it off. And as far as introducing these characters, yeah, we kind of get to see little bits and pieces of them scattered throughout the film. And it's
we find out why Beetle doesn't stand for the national anthem.
We definitely do.
And see them, and see that's really good writing, because I think them are the kind of conversations people have at bars that you drop in on, just random, like
if you're just sitting and you just hear people talking about whatever.
Yeah.
And someone like Beetle is someone you would find at a local neighborhood bar or
middle of the
something
day, middle of the day,
middle of the day,
middle of the day.
Someone just ranting about the government.
I know these people. I was in a band in my early 20s, so I've been around these people.
Yeah, exactly. And what we were talking about earlier, as far as this charisma that Beetle has, that's almost likable, right? You're kind of entertained by him, right?
It's probably why he's been kept around.
Yeah, that's exactly why. That has everything to do with Peter, man. Peter's just a really talented guy, and Peter, he is nothing like Beetle. I want to preface that, but also Beetle. Beetle is an incredibly Peter is a very incredibly charismatic, cool guy, man. And he, a lot of what we see as far as Beetle's personality, that's Peter laying it out, and while also being able to display this like cruel, sort of really fucked up sense of like, whoa, this guy Beetle's a little scary.
Well, I was gonna say, look, I mean, like, and this is, these are things I can learn just because you're the guy that tells the story, so I can learn this from you. I kind of looked at Beetle as almost kind of being a version of Pam that is still kind of like hiding behind something. He's hiding behind his charisma. He's hiding. That's his mask. That's his like thing. Yeah. And Pam was hiding behind being a husband, being a being in the situation he was before he left his family. And now even though Beetle says, I see you and you're essentially, I felt like Beetle was like, you're just looking for attention. You're not really anybody. And like, I think Beetle's actually the one that's, kind of faking it.
I would agree with that. I would certainly agree with that. We've also had internal discussions about something similar too, the fact that, that last scene between her and him, right? Pam is saying, you're a loser, and is that all you want to do is be a loser? Because that's not what I want to do. But that is all they do, right?
Well, I mean, there's also a question of what everybody's happy is different. So like everybody's what's considered not being a loser is different. Like to people from the outside, Pam's situation, you would look at it like, well, that's a loser, maybe. Like they living in motels. They're a sex worker. They got HIV. That's a loser. But if they're happy, then I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I think that I never, again, as a filmmaker, I personally never want to judge the characters. I never want to judge the choices that people make in their lives, and I don't necessarily judge Pam for those things listed. The way I view Pam is, again, Pam's complicated, and Pam has issues in their life that they're still trying to figure out, and that's what the movie's about, man. Is Pam figuring their life out, and the people around them, how they're affected by it, and what they have to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to figure your life out when you took, I mean, like it's what's messy about it is like when you are finally, taking the leap to be the person you want to be when you're in your late 30s. Is that what's Pam's age?
Early 60s.
Oh, he's that old?
Yeah.
So
character was that old. Yeah.
Because the Beetle relationship, and Beetle's like what, 39?
In the movie, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So this is what I need to know more. Like, how does that relationship? If he kept him around, like, who was Beetle to him to Pam?
We need the prequel.
I need the prequel movie.
Better call Saul. Better call Pam.
Yeah.
Well, there's that argument scene towards the end, right? And Pam sort of lists off all these things that she's done for him. Like, I've done this for you, I've done that for you. You know, who was there?
He was a crazy teenager at one point that he helped.
I would our discussions between myself, Tom, and Peter have always been, Beetle says to Paul, the son, right? Oh, I've known you since he was in diapers. So yeah, it could be assumed Beetle's been around for a little while now, around 18 years or so, whatever. We've always said that Pam was like a lawyer, like that was something Tom brought to me. Was like, Pam was a lawyer before all this, and Pam had it going, and Tom's interpretation of it was also like Beetle was like a client of Pam's, and that's sort of how they forged this relationship. I don't know if I personally agree with that, but that was Tom's interpretation of it. So I was
I understand not wanting to give us a real answer, because it's part of the greatness of that's part of what creates great conversations about movies is not having all the answers. Please continue that, because that's the world we live in now with filmmaking. Everybody wants to know everything.
That's true.
I get so sick of it.
I mean, it's part of the ambiguity that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We
don't want a spin-off movie about that one guy, the one guy, the Beatles friend, and we don't need to spin-off movie about him.
Exactly. Thank you.
You don't need every answer to every question. You know what I mean?
Thank you for not actually answering me.
It's open to interpretation.
I would rather tell new stories and have people pose new questions, right? As opposed to, like you said, answer every little question, because I want people to be able to answer those questions for themselves. I want people to be able to take from what they want from the film and interpret that. And
I think that for filmmakers, heads of studios, when you're making movies, get this. Do you want people to keep talking about your movie? Make movies that make people talk about it. Wow. So that's why somebody like Christopher Nolan, he makes movies that spark conversation, that make people want to keep talking about his movies far after they've come out. But when you keep making movies that are just, like pellets, that you're just feeding people the same stuff, and you just give them the answers to all the questions, they're going to forget about it. It's going to be gone. So, like, thank you for writing, for trying to understand that that's important, to not give all the answers.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, Stephen. I mean, talking about my influences, right? Sean Baker, Scorsese, Aronofsky, Vincent Gallo, even. I mean, I love Vincent Gallo's movies. These incredible artists, these incredible filmmakers, they're not laying out the answers for you, right? And these are some of my biggest influences. I mean, people still talk about the ending of the Florida Project, right? I mean, people, since Honora blew up, like we were talking about earlier, people still talk about that ending, so that's, like you said, that's the biggest thing, is I want people to talk about the movie. I don't want to have to lay it all out. I want
you never explain it all, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've had somebody ask me about the ending, and I've always tried my best to dodge the question.
You have to, man.
Yeah, keep doing it.
Especially with ending.
Yeah, the late great David Lynch never explained any of his movies.
God.
That's kind of what made him like a genius.
He would not do nothing.
Let people figure it out themselves.
I completely agree with that.
So obviously we've talked about your influence being, you're really into grounded stories, grounded filmmaking. But is there anything other than that type of, like, are you into any other genre type of? Would you want to explore that stuff more?
I grew up loving Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Batman. I mean, Indiana Jones, those movies was like the holy grail to me as a little kid. I was like 4 or 5 years old. My dad put those on. I mean, so I will always have a special place in my heart for all different types of films. I mean, we love movies because there's a part of us as humans, we love being entertained, and some people are entertained by certain films, and that's okay. I never want to be someone that, like, I'm snobbish and I'm like, oh, I don't like that type of movie. It's all cool, man. I think great cinema is great cinema, and preserving cinema, preserving film, that's really what matters right now, right? Preserving and bringing to light storytellers and new storytellers, and that's actually something we're seeing less and less of, right? And we're not seeing, like we were talking about before, we're not seeing new stories told. We're being entertained by stories that have already been told, man. So yeah, to answer your question though, yeah, of course, I love films from all different sorts of genres.
Yeah. I what I'm saying is I want to see Beautiful Pam, but I want to see like Blade Runner, Beautiful Pam. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
that's what I'm saying. Like, are you going to make one of them type of stories, like grounded level sci-fi story, but like, you know, like just that kind of perspective instead of like trying to make the scope of the movie
Sure.
something. Yeah. That's what I
Well,
want.
I'm broke, so
Come on, man.
you might have to
Dude.
give me a couple decades or something
No,
like
I'm
that.
just messing.
To raise the funds.
Yeah, I never want to rule out anything. You know,
Of
again,
course.
I always want to try and tell stories that resonate with me, and if that's something set in a galaxy far, far away, then so be it. You know, but as of right now, with the resources I have and with the way I feel about life and myself, I'm right in the middle of trying to tell these grounded stories. If that
Well,
answers-
you have to also, as you talk about, like, you know, the funds, you have to write what you know you can shoot at this
Oh
point.
yeah,
Yeah, you know, that's kind of like the number one role for
Yeah.
micro budget filmmakers. Write what you can actually make in film.
Yeah.
Because
I completely agree. I'm certainly not writing any scenes where Pam is in a spaceship or anything like that. You know what
I mean, look, effects, like there's people online that do some amazing
They're
effects
brilliant,
for
yeah.
nothing. But you know, still it's like do you have to do that? No. I mean, we don't need to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the characters. You don't need to like shine it all up with like special effects and stuff. But
That, Stephen, I would certainly agree with that. I mean, but again, that's my taste. You know, that's what I like.
no, that's what you're into.
I like films where the character is eating alone in Taco Bell at 11 p.m. at night. You know, like that's my sort of thing. So I don't ever want to knock on someone that is sort of, you know, into that sort of thing, spaceships and whatever. That's cool. That's awesome. But like you said, for me personally, my taste and what I have at my disposal, I'm running gunning. You know, I'm going in this thrift store and shooting. I'm going to this Taco Bell shooting.
God, I used to be just like you for a minute. I used to do all that running and gunning around, and now I'm old and I'm tired.
I'm doing what I can, man. I'm doing what I can to get the work seen, and that's what's important.
Nah, that's great, man. That's great.
Yeah.
And so you working on something new? You writing?
You know, I'm writing this film about this character. He's a homeless guy in New York, and he gets into a bunch of crazy stuff, and you know, sort of retaining all these influences, similar tone of Pam, I would say. You know, I mean, I don't want to lay it all out.
No. Please don't.
No, just the fact that you're working on something.
You're already working on
enough.
the next thing. I just wanted to know if you were working on something.
I appreciate it. This is all I have to live for, truthfully. You know, without the dramatics of it, this is really what I exist for. This is what I feel I need to do in life, and if I can't do it, then I won't be here. You know, this is what I need to do, and these are the stories I need to tell.
It sounds just like Pam at the end of the movie.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, how was the process? I guess this is a little bit kind of outside of just the movie itself. How was the process when it came to applying to film festivals and things like that? You know, did you get a lot of positive feedback, or was there a lot of rejection that you had to go through? And how difficult is that for you as a young filmmaker to have to deal with rejection?
It was so hard. It was, you know, I mean, film festivals are a tricky thing, right? I'll start with this first, and then I'll talk more directly about my experience so far with Pam. A lot of film festivals that are bigger in scale, and they are independent, so to speak. They aren't necessarily interested in true independent films anymore. They're interested in your movie if you have an A-list producer or an A-list agent or an A-list actor, and that's okay, and that's fine. But talking about my experience, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help a lot of independent filmmakers. So it's hard, man. It's difficult. I mean, again, a lot of institutions that for decades have been home to foster independent filmmakers, they're not that anymore. And they might say they still are, but they're not. They're just not. However, in saying that, there are also festivals that do foster independent films still, you know, and that try to prioritize that. And so as far as my own experience with them, with Pam, I mean, it's been interesting. It's been great. You know, I mean, there's been experiences that I'm learning. And you know, this festival I really like, and this festival, okay, you know, I'll go to this one next time. You know, I mean, I'm trying to pinpoint where I can get the work seen most. and what's the place that is going to genuinely care about the work and make sure the work gets seen, right? Yeah, I mean, a lot of festivals, again, talking about my earlier point, a lot of festivals, they need to make their money back. They need to make that dollar, and that's fine. That's cool. But if my movie doesn't have an A-list star, more people are probably not going to see it, you know? So, and thus they're not going to program my film. And that's just the reality of it. And it sucks. But I'm trying to navigate around that, you know? And like we were talking about earlier, the Winter Film Festival in Manhattan, I talked to the director of the festival, Stephanie, and she was saying that a main goal of the festival was to make this independent film festival feel like an industry festival, you know, because they were sick and tired of seeing the same thing I've been talking about, you know, these industry festivals that say they cater to independent filmmakers, but they don't. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that you know, even the small festivals are, you know, they eventually grow up to get bigger pants, you know, like they eventually get a little, you know, they get a movie with somebody in it, and then, you know, everybody grows up a little bit eventually.
Yeah. And that's fine, you know. I mean,
no,
I'm not angry at any institution for that. But, in talking about my experience, it's tough. It's tough. You know, no one becomes an independent filmmaker or filmmaker in general because they want to make money or because they want to be rich. And if they do, then they're in the wrong profession, because this is not that. You know, it's a grassroots thing, you know, and it's just trying to take it up a notch every single time, trying to get better, trying to get in front of bigger audiences.
And the choice to just put it online for free, you know, either way, that's your choice. I mean, you're already making that choice anyway. So it's like,
Sure.
You know, but you're wanting to put it in, as we talked about it early on, like the theatrical experience is important for seeing the film. I think if anybody can see a movie in the theater first, it's an optimal experience. So
I would agree with that. And as far as putting the film online for free, right? I am trying to get the work seen by people, by people from all over. And there's going to be a lot of people that aren't willing to come from Texas to New York to see a theatrical screening, right? It's hard enough to put the movie in theaters and to organize these screenings. So for me, putting the film online, and everyone has YouTube installed on their phone from the moment they get their phone, right? I want people to have that accessibility to be able to click right away and see the film while also being able to see it in theaters. Listen, I don't condone films that go to theaters and then they're on, you know, a streaming platform 15 days later. I don't support that at all. But at my level right now, just trying to get the work seen, it's a necessity to put it online.
No, you have to, and you know what? It's your movie. It's not like you're not, like you said, you're not doing this for money necessarily. You're trying to you're putting the work in. That's how it is for you're putting the work in. You're paying your dues, and you're hoping down the line that you can get more people to see your film, and maybe you can make a little money, and it won't be so hard.
Nice. It would be nice.
I mean, anybody that says they don't want to make a little money being a filmmaker is lying, because
they are. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, listen, no one wants to be broke. I mean, listen, money's
exactly.
Cool. It's nice, and also, again, as a filmmaker, money allows you to get into, you know, bigger places. But also, again, the scale of the story you want to tell is also really important. I mean, Sean Baker said something very important recently. He said, you know, I'm not doing a Marvel movie, right? I'm not doing a big $200 million movie. And that's the scale of the stories he wants to tell. And I also feel a similar sentiment.
Yeah, the fact that he's sticking to his guns and saying, dude, I'm not, just because I won an Oscar, I'm not suddenly going to go do. And the same with Mikey Madison.
Yeah,
you know, she just is like, I don't want to do Star Wars. Yeah, whatever. Love it. We need more of that. And man. Anything else left to say, Andrew? Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up here with?
No, I think we definitely want to inform people about where they can see the movie, where it's coming out, all the platforms we can see it on, and I think that's
what's your YouTube channel called? What is it called?
My YouTube channel is Sid Cinematics, so at Sid Cinematics, and that's also my Instagram, my Facebook. They can check it on there for free.
Well, guys, take it from us. You can like our tastes or whatever. If you listen to this channel, you know our tastes.
I know.
We're telling you, it's worth checking out. I'm sure. Oh no, for sure, man. And we'll be excited to see what you do next. Beautiful Pam, March 22nd on YouTube. Check it out. Please leave him some comments. He wants to know what you think too.
Yeah, I absolutely do. It's on Letterboxd as well. So if anyone wants to
Yes.
go on there.
Yeah,
And
it's
now
on
that,
Letterboxd.
now I can put see, I don't put especially since I knew an interview was coming up. I was like, I'm not going to put what I think yet
Now you could do that. You could
until we talk. And I was like, now I can put it online.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. I look forward to hearing it, man.
No,
But thank
I
you
will.
guys again so much.
Of
This
course,
is a-
man.
this is
And
a great
anytime
show.
you want to come on and talk about what your work, or if you just want to do one of our shows,
Thank you
let
so
us
much. I
know.
appreciate it. And I want to say one more thing too. Another thing talking about independent film, podcasts like this, shows like this is what is the future, right? This is how we're getting
Yeah.
our films out there, going on shows and talking to people that really care about independent film and movies. And so Andrew and Steven, thank you guys again so much for having me.
No problem.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. We don't get paid either. We're not making any money doing this. We've been doing this for what, 10 years, Andrew, something like that, roughly.
Depending, are you talking about just chasing labels? Or you're talking
Chasing
about,
labels is like more like 6 years or something, but
I think it'll be 5 years this month, actually. 5 years this month.
So yeah, I mean, no, I appreciate that, man. It is a passion thing, man. We just love being. If I'm not doing what you're doing, I want to be around people that are doing it, so I can just live through you guys and just hear the stories, and you guys keep telling us more stories, and I love hearing it, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Steven. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Well, go watch Beautiful Pam, and then just say some nice things to the guy.